This is The Fifth Estate, coming to you from the Fort Hall School of Government in Nairobi, Kenya, and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. This month, William Ruto marks the first half of his first term, and it has been a rough ride for him. Now the winds of change have begun to blow, and the question is, will he bend the winds of change, or will the winds of change bend Ruto? Will he become a one-term president? In pondering these questions, we must be guided by the words of George Bernard Shaw when he said, "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world, but the unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. In the end, however, all progress depends on the unreasonable man." Yes, all transformation, the world over, is driven by the unreasonable man. For William Ruto to think he can bend history and its oracles is to be unreasonable. For Ruto to think he can turn and twist the winds of change in a direction that favors him is unreasonable. And if Bernard Shaw is right, Ruto, the unreasonable man, will emerge on top. Or will he? The big question for Ruto is this: to be or not to be?
To be or not to be? That is the question for William Ruto. Should he change and adapt himself to the reasonable path? And the answer is 0. Ruto is using the Madman theory to do politics. In this theory, a leader assumes a completely irrational posture. He is capable of doing every unexpected thing. He reshuffles cabinet every week. He hosts the alternative government of Sudan in Nairobi. He hires ministers and fires them in months. All these things seem irrational and unreasonable, but as Shakespeare taught us in his play, Hamlet, there is method to madness. A leader who adopts the madman theory, like Trump, is executing a scheme behind the curtains. Why, for instance, did Ruto fire Prof. Kisiangani after the good professor downsized the Standard newspaper? This was irrational, but deliberate. And the question is this: why? If you focus on the actions of a madman theorist, you will miss his plot. Focus should be on the method behind his madness and the scheme he is executing. But what is Ruto calibrating behind the curtains of irrationality? What is behind his madman approach? To be honest, we do not know. All we know is that Ruto is currently down, and he can only go up.
Pablo Picasso, the abstract artist, taught us that the best calculation is the absence of calculation. He was another madman theorist. He discovered that whenever he did a brilliant painting and explained the inspiration behind it, the painting did not sell. But when he was vague about the painting, it created a cloud of mystique, and it sold for millions of dollars. The secret to Picasso's success was vagueness. And maybe Ruto should become vague. We say so because Kenyans are fast thinkers. If you cannot convince them, you must confuse them with vagueness. And this is what Kibaki did. Kenyans are like the peasants of Delhi in 1800. The British colonizers in India had an outbreak of poisonous cobras slithering around the city. One day, the British governor declared that if an Indian caught and killed a cobra, he would be given cash. This worked for a while until the Delhi peasants got clever. They started breeding cobras in their farms, killing them and selling them to the colonizers. By the time the British discovered the ploy, it was too late. They cancelled the Cobra for Cash program. However, The Indians had bred 4 times the cobras than before. In revenge, they released them back to the streets of Delhi.
Collectively, the people are always smarter than the rulers. The British thought that they had solved the cobra problem in Delhi, but the peasants multiplied the cobra population in the city 4 times. This is what people power can do. But there is a twist here. It is called the paradox of choice in political science. Let us assume that Ruto is a one-term president, that he is an irrational leader who insists that Kenyans must adapt to his methods. How do you remove him? The paradox of choice was an experiment conducted by scientists on children in the 1990s. At first, they gave the children 3 toys to play with, and the babies were happy. Then they increased the toys to 10, and the children got confused. Instead of playing with the many toys they had received, they stood at the window staring at the falling snow. If the people want to remove Ruto, what is the replacement? What are the toys they will play with? There is Kalonzo, Matiang'i, maybe Raila or Gachagua, who can still run in 2027, and Maraga, the deluded judge. These are the cobras multiplied 4 times. But will the cobras slither their way into State House? The verdict is yours.